My name is Layla Collins, and I've never believed in fate. I work hard, I plan everything, and I always play by the rules. So the last thing I expected was that a random act of kindness would flip my entire life upside down, especially just days before my engagement party. It started on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was walking home from a late shift at the cafe, the wind biting through my coat when I spotted him. An older man, maybe in his 60s, sitting by the bakery dumpster with a worn-out blanket, holding a sign that simply read, "Hungry. Anything helps." I paused. I didn't have much, just the leftover turkey and avocado sandwich. I'd wrapped to take home for dinner, but something about his eyes, they weren't empty or desperate. They were sharp, watchful, like he was taking in the world and choosing not to speak. Without a word, I handed him the sandwich. He looked up slowly, his gray beard soaked from the rain. "Thank you," he said softly. "Most people just look away." I smiled. "I'm not most people." He gave a small chuckle and looked down at the sandwich. "You don't know who I am, do you?" I frowned. "Should I?" He shook his head. "Not yet." 3 days later, I was standing in the ballroom of the Grand Arista Hotel, dressed in a burgundy gown and surrounded by my fiancé's elite family. My fiancé, Andrew Worthington, came from serious old money, think generational wealth, gated estates, and family crests. And while he never looked down on my modest background, I always felt out of place among the Worthingtons, especially because I'd never met his father. According to Andrew, his dad was a reclusive billionaire who'd retired from the public eye years ago. He refused interviews, avoided cameras, and even skipped Andrew's college graduation. Most people didn't even know what he looked like anymore. Until that night. The doors to the ballroom opened mid-toast and silence swept the room. A man stepped in, drenched from the rain, wearing a tailored black coat, but with a familiar gray beard and those same piercing eyes. I froze, champagne glass halfway to my lips. It was him. The homeless man. Gasps echoed. Andrew looked shocked. His mother nearly fainted. The man stepped forward and said loud and clear, "I'm Richard Worthington, Andrew's father. And this woman, Layla, is the only person here who passed my test." I never saw it coming. All I did was hand him a sandwich. One I didn't even like that much. Turkey, avocado, a little soggy from sitting in my bag all day. But something in me said, he needs it more. And when he said thank you, it didn't sound like a man broken. It sounded like a man. Watching. My engagement dinner was supposed to be a dream. Candlelight, crystal, and carefully coordinated seating charts. I'd spent weeks rehearsing polite laughs and making sure I didn't accidentally use the wrong fork around Andrew's snobby aunt. Then the doors opened, and in walked the man I fed by the dumpster. But this time, he wasn't wearing rags. He wore a black overcoat, sharp shoes, and walked like he owned the place. Because he did. Richard Worthington, billionaire, CEO, the man no one had seen in a decade. My future father-in-law. "Some people marry for love," he said, staring right at me. "Some marry for money. I needed to know which one you were." I felt everyone's eyes on me. Andrew looked completely blindsided. "You pretended to be homeless?" I asked. He nodded. "For a week. Sitting near places Andrew visits, watching how people treat strangers. Most of them walked past me. You didn't. I just gave you a sandwich." "No," he said, stepping closer. "You gave me dignity. You didn't ask questions. You didn't post it on social media. You simply helped because it was the right thing." I didn't know whether to feel flattered or furious. This was insane. But Andrew smiled. "He's done this before, hasn't he?" Richard gave a smirk. "Your mother failed, remember?" There was a collective gasp. Andrew took my hand. "You passed. That's all that matters." A week after the dinner, Richard invited me to lunch. Not Andrew. Just me. He said he wanted to tie things up. Over lobster and white wine, he slid a sealed envelope across the table. "My lawyer already has the paperwork. If anything happens to me, you get control of the family trust. I've seen your heart. You'll protect this family better than most born into it." I blinked. "But I'm just a barista." "You were," he said. "Now you're something more." When word got out, chaos followed. Tabloids printed stories like wildfire. Worthington heir's fiancé discovered feeding homeless mogul. From barista to billionaire bride, the woman who passed the test. Andrew's cousins were livid. One even accused me of tricking Richard. I stayed quiet until Richard himself released a public letter. It read, "She gave when she had little." That's what real wealth looks like. We didn't get married in some massive cathedral. We said our vows in a vineyard. Small ceremony, just close family, and yes, Richard stood beside me as I walked down the aisle. "Are you still mad I lied to you?" he whispered. "I'm still processing." He nodded. "Good. Never trust a man too quickly, even if he gives you $1 billion. I didn't quit my job right away. I stayed at the cafe for a few more months, out of pride, I guess. Eventually, I did join the Worthington Foundation. Now I oversee programs for housing, mental health, and addiction recovery. Every week, I make sure someone like Richard, whether billionaire or broke type, gets a hot meal, a warm bed, and a second chance.